Good morning and welcome to the Mayor's News Conference. For this week's agenda, we'll be focusing on four things. First, a review of the 2018 police statistics, then an overview of the Martin Luther King Day activities, an update on the People's Supper, and a reminder about the Mayor's Brown Bag Lunch, and I'll turn over to the Mayor.
Thank you, Renee, and good morning, everyone. We're going to begin today with a review of crime statistics from last year, 2018. Overall, I'm very pleased. I feel that we're making progress and Erie is becoming a safer community. As you will hear, officers recovered more firearms this year. The shots fired dropped pretty dramatically. The number of people who were shot was down significantly, and total robberies were also down. So here to dive into the numbers, show trends, and give you some more detail, we're going to look at trends over the last 3 years. I'd like to introduce Police Chief Dan Spizzarni. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. As the Mayor said, we've looked at the numbers for the past 3 years here with the police department, and we've talked quarterly on the numbers of the past year, especially as they related to Unified Erie, the gun violence reduction strategy. So we've kind of focused here on the gun numbers. And just as reference, the stolen firearms, we've gone from the last 3 years from 92 to 69. We kind of jumped a little bit back up to 76. So it's kind of holding steady, but that's the number of stolen guns. One of the trends that we are seeing there is we are losing lots of guns by people that put their weapon in their car at night and don't lock the door. So there's kids going around looking for loose change in cars. They're opening these unlocked doors and they're finding guns. It's not a good thing for anybody. It makes the city unsafe, and we need to get the message out that if you're a gun owner, be responsible, make sure the weapon is locked. And I don't recommend it be locked overnight in the car like that. Firearms recovered. The department has brought in 163 weapons this year. We're up from 154 last year. You know, that's double the number of weapons that have been stolen. So the number that we're taking off the street is a significant 163. Almost every other day, a police officer is taking a gun off the street, whether it's found property, recovering stolen property, or if it's encountering an armed individual on the street. Our officers are dealing with people with weapons, and we are taking those guns off the street. It's over double the number that have been stolen. So I thought that was an interesting statistic there. When we get into people struck by gunfire, that's one of the areas that we're very happy about. People that are actually struck, we've gone from 57, it dropped just to 59, and then this past year it was at 35. That number is coming down. That's a significant drop, and that's one that we're very happy. It not only makes the city residents safer, it's saving money. Through Unified Erie, we know that a person shot, taken to the hospital, costs the community so much money for the medical treatment. By having almost turned that number in half, we have saved a significant amount of money for the citizens of Erie that doesn't have to be spent on that. Maybe that goes towards better research of something else that we need solved. Cancer or whatever it is. It's good that we're not spending money needlessly on people being struck by gunfire. Sticking with the guns, we're going just on reports of shots fired. From 242, we're down to 139. In 3 years, that is consistently showed a drop. I believe that Unified Erie should take some of the credit, as well as the officers of the police department, the citizens in the community that have stepped up and helped participate in the events that we do. The message is getting out. It's not just a police message, it's a community message, and we're thankful that it is showing great results. The last section here is the robberies. These are robberies with firearms. And those numbers are going down as well. From 191, there were 11 less to 11 less. We're down to 169 last year. Again, the trends are good here in the numbers that we're showing, so we're very happy about that. Now, just early this week, we announced that we had arrested an individual regarding a burglary. He was caught a few blocks away from a burglary scene. That night, they discovered he had items from another burglary. The detectives then completed their investigation. They ended up charging him with a total of 20 business burglaries in the last month. We had 22 burglaries in the last month. He did 20 of them. He is still actually a suspect in the last two, but that number there is significant. So, but I'm talking about businesses. Now, if I were to talk about all burglaries, and that would include residences and businesses, we've dropped from almost 600 to 455. So again, even on the burglary trend, it's not related to the guns, but maybe it has something to do with less guns being stolen out of houses too. But even the burglary trend. And with that arrest, I mean, that's great that we can say that, 20 out of 22 business burglaries were solved here. So we're very happy about those numbers. The one section that's not there, we've talked a lot about the number of homicides we had last year. There were 11 homicides in the city. The county had a record. The city, it's not our record, thank God, but 11 is still a lot. We know that there were 5 that were domestic related. And, that's not good, but, as far as the prevention aspects, we're doing all we can. We've joined, with SafeNet, with the lethality assessment. We've talked about that before. We're taking the steps we can. We believe that most of those homicides last year were unpreventable, at least in our normal work. Now, so far this year, we've had 1 homicide. And fortunately, detectives were able to make quick work of it and did arrest the gunman that fired the shot. We also announced at that time that there were 2 other individuals that were wanted in connection with that investigation. One of those individuals was in the house at the time of the incident. A second individual was outside in a car. We are very close to identifying both of those individuals, and I'm giving them this opportunity now to come in and talk to the detectives this week before we come out to get them next week. Tell us what happened and give us your side of the story. I think the overall message I want to give today about all of this is that we've got some great work going on here. The city is safer than we were a year before. The numbers are going the right direction. We're very happy about it. And at 11 o'clock today, we'll be swearing in 4 new officers to pick up the baton and continue making the city safer. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate all the hard work that you, your command staff, and all your officers do every day. I have a deep respect for police officers. They put themselves in harm's way every day to keep the rest of us safe. I'm especially grateful for the transformational work, Dan, that you and your officers do in programs like Unified Erie, the Police Athletic League, and strengthening police community partnerships. What our police are doing will create safe, welcoming, vibrant neighborhoods for all of our residents. Our next topic, I'm really excited to participate in upcoming activities associated with Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up this Monday. I'd like to invite James Sherrod, the Executive Director of the Martin Luther King Center, and Gary Horton, Executive Director of the Quality of Life Learning Center and the Urban Erie Community Development Corporation, to come up and tell us about the events taking place this weekend and on Monday. James?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today to talk about the activities that are occurring in our community relevant to the Dr. King holiday. Typically, since 1991, the Martin Luther King Center, the namesake, has been providing activities in our community since that day, and this year is no different. We kicked off the activities this past Tuesday with support of the Unitarian Universalists with a forum that was directed over at the East Middle School. Next on our schedule is a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade forum at the Martin Luther King Center in the auxiliary room. We're looking to work with young people and teach them about being a man. Our next activity will be a women's only event, private invitation, unfortunately, that will be held this Friday with our guest speaker, Tanikia Carpenter, who will be arriving Friday and getting ready for her initial performance at our dinner. The big events, two of them, the Dr. Martin Luther King Awards Dinner will take place Saturday at 6 p.m. I'm standing here announcing this, but unfortunately, Monday morning we sold out of tickets. So you'll have to reserve your tickets early next year, or talk to one of your friends or your neighbors about how successful the dinner was. We this year, our theme is around rewarding women of our community that have had a significant impact over the last 2 to 3 years. We'll be giving out also the Dr. King and Coretta Award at our dinner. This year's recipient will be the Honorable Joyce Savacchio, our former mayor. We're excited to have her in our presence and acknowledge all the great things that she's done for the Erie community. After the dinner, we'll get together and talk about and formalize and get everything laid out for the Memorial March and activities that will take place on Monday. Gary Horton will talk about the Memorial March and some other activities that are on the calendar. Gary?
Thank you, James. Good morning, Mayor and Erie community. This is the 28th annual march, and it starts Monday morning at 11 o'clock. We're going to gather at the Perry Square, and we're going to march at noon. And we're going to proceed throughout the lower west side of Erie to the Martin Luther King Center. And upon arrival at the center, we'll have a brief outdoor ceremony, and then we'll go into the center and have activities that some people in the Erie community are going to sing and dance and do speeches and stuff like that. The focus of it is achieving economic equality or economic equality, and have a light lunch will be served. Now, that was easy, and I have flyers I could pass out to everybody who wants to participate in the march. We've had several hundred to 1,000 people who have marched in the past. We've marched in the rain, we've marched in the snow, and my understanding is going to be very cold on Monday, so we'll be marching in the cold. And there are some other activities that are underway throughout the program that day also, and I'm only going to speak about one of them and pass out the calendar for the other, and that's the Horton family and friends are doing a prayer breakfast, a prayer service, Martin Luther King prayer service at St. James AME Church at 10 a.m. on Monday morning. We get together and donate a scholarship to Gannon University in Robert Ben Wiley's name, and in my parents, Mildred and Howard Horton. I can't leave the mic, Mayor, without putting on my hat as the president of the local branch of the NAACP. And in doing that, my thought is, what would Martin Luther King say? If Martin Luther King could trade positions with me today and say to us in Erie, I'm sure he would appreciate what the Bayhawks are doing. In the event, we're going to raise a flag in his name. But I believe his hope would be, and what he would say, would be to focus on the very people he gave his life for. We're sitting in the midst of unprecedented economic development in our community today. And yet the people who could benefit the most from it, Erie's poor and minority community, have no hope in it and see very little investment in it. And we know, Mayor, we've advocated community benefit agreements in the past. We know the public's position on them. But I believe Martin Luther King would be an advocate for community benefit agreements were targeted for the poorest in our community, the most vulnerable in our community. I don't think he would build a wall of resistance in the face of opportunity to make that link. So if Martin Luther King was standing here today, I don't believe he'd talk about his Call to Conscience, a book he wrote, or Stride Towards Freedom, or I Have a Dream, or his speech from a mountaintop, or against the Vietnam War. But he gave his life as he was organizing a Poor People's March to focus on the poor people and that the very most vulnerable. I would love to be here at the next press conference when we can celebrate, like we're celebrating today, the progress that we welcome that the police department is achieving in our community, because we know that is so very important to giving people hope, or restoring hope, or giving people the belief that this is a great place to invest in. We see it everywhere. But if we could stand up here and see how the least of us in our community, if we can't say it now during Martin Luther King time, when can we say it? So I hate that I hijacked what you asked me to get up here and talk about the march, but I couldn't come to the march if I didn't believe that. I couldn't walk through the streets in sub-zero temperature. I couldn't take the hate that sometimes is directed at me for some of the things I say and some of the things I've tried to do to advance the cause of the poor if I didn't believe it. And so I'm asking all of you in the Erie community who believe in that, who believe in our city, who believe we can do better, who want to be a part of that, to join us at the march on Monday, January 21st, 11 a.m. and march at 12. I thank you again for inviting me and look forward to working with you as
Thank you,
always,
Gary.
Mayor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, James and Gary. I really do look forward. I'll be at the march Monday, Gary, and I do look forward to honoring Martin Luther King Jr. this weekend. Now I'd like to bring up Matt Brzee from the Erie Bayhawks to provide an update on Project Hope Initiative and to give us a sneak peek at the special jerseys the Bayhawks will be donning for their recognition of Martin Luther King Jr. at this Saturday's game.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last time I was with you, we unveiled a new program the Bayhawks are starting this year in conjunction with a number of community organizations, Project Hope. I'm happy to report we had our first official event just a couple of weeks ago at a game, brought together nearly 60 students from our community and about 20 various business leaders from all different sectors. And they had an opportunity for about an hour and a half pregame to sit and talk. The business leaders were asked to provide some inspiration to these children, talk about opportunities for the path that maybe they took to get to where they are today. And it was a successful event. Like anything, the first time we learned a few things and how we're going to grow that. And the follow-up to that particular event, we have a couple things coming up, one of which will be Saturday's game. But the next step in that process is we appreciate some of those business people also offering up some time in their workplace to host some of those students in the workplace so they can see firsthand some of the opportunities available to them in their future. And we're in the process of scheduling some of that as part of that program. So we'll stay tuned on the updates there. Another step in this is this Saturday night's game where we play the Long Island Nets at 7 o'clock on the weekend, where so many celebrate the legacy of Dr. King. We felt it a great opportunity for us to do something maybe a little bit different this year, and very happy to unveil the uniforms we've created that will be worn during the game on Saturday night. First and foremost, want to thank local Erie artist Caesar Westbrook. This is all his work. This is original artwork. We've been asked about where we got the image from. It's not a photograph. It's actually original art. So appreciate Caesar. He donated his time and talents for the benefit of the Martin Luther King Center here in Erie. And that's where all the proceeds will go to benefit the Martin Luther King Center here in Erie when we auction these, and I'll tell you a little bit about that here in just a minute. But the idea was, as one of Erie's sports teams, we feel it's important, it's our social responsibility to use some of our resources and use our platform in various ways. And one of the ways we think we can do that with this is, first and foremost, take our own time to stop and pause and celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King. Have kids that attend the game, adults even, take pause and again remember his work, as Mr. Horton mentioned, what his legacy is, and a reminder of that. Second is to also help in a way that we can with the local King Center. The work that James Sherrod, his staff, the board, the work that they do down there is so significant, and this is an opportunity for us to help contribute some funds. They've got a number of projects going on, some renovations we've talked about, and this will just be a small step in that, but in order to do our part to help give back to the community. A couple different ways, if you're interested in being the owner of one of these and helping benefit the King Center, a couple different ways you can do that. A number of the jerseys and shorts will be auctioned during the game on Saturday night. We're also going to have a raffle, so for just a few bucks you can buy a chance at winning a jersey at the game on Saturday night. And then we're also going to have a couple sets available for eBay auction that will actually run through Monday. The reason for the eBay auction actually has also been, since we officially unveiled these on Monday, we've had tremendous interest really throughout the country on social media. It's been a buzz. We've had some coverage on ESPN already, and a lot of great feedback about not only obviously what the jersey stands for and what it means, but of course the design as well. So again, thanks to all those involved. I should mention also we want to thank the King Estate. Anytime you do a project like this, they need to give their approvals. So they've granted us the license to do this weekend, and we will also be sending a set jersey and shorts to the King family and to the King Estate for their archives as well. So again, I appreciate the work of the King Center. Us as the Bayhawks appreciate what we're able to do as a partner in this community, including, thank you to Chief Spizarni and what they do as a business in the city. We have great appreciation for what they do every day to keep it safe. So lots of good news as we stand before you here today, and we're just proud about what we have going on Saturday night. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Matt. Those jerseys do look amazing, and I love what you're doing with the kids as well. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to have our community liaison, Michael Otlaw, come up, and he's got another surprise to show you.
No applause? Okay, I need some assistance. This year is the first year that we're going to unveil or fly. I think it's this right here. Dr. King's flag. This is going to be a monumental moment for the city of Erie. The mayor's leadership, we are proud of that leadership, and we commend him for celebrating our rich cultural diversity and what this flag stands for. This flag represents equality for all. This flag represents just our ancestors' plight in America. The blood, shed, and tears that African Americans shed in America for our freedom, our rights. So everything that you see connected to this flag represents the plight of African Americans and other communities at large in Erie, Pennsylvania. So again, please come out this Monday for the MLK March and march with us as we celebrate Martin Luther King's legacy. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. You often hear me talk about our vision for Erie, which is Erie is a community of choice, where we celebrate our rich cultural diversity, our welcoming, vibrant neighborhoods, our world-class downtown and bayfront, our excellent education for everyone, and our abundance of good family-sustaining jobs. I really believe that if we all work together, we can achieve this vision for Erie for every resident. That's my goal, that's my team's goal, that's what we're striving for. As Martin Luther King Jr. himself said, whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. He continued, I can never be what I ought to be unless you are what you ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. When all residents feel like they belong, when all residents find their passion, when all residents are empowered to share their God-given gifts and talents in the services of others, then and only then will we all be as one community. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. told us, and I quote him again, change does not roll on the wheels of inevitability. It comes through continuous struggle. That quote is especially meaningful here in Erie right now. Change is not easy. We have a difficult road ahead, but with challenges also come opportunities. We now have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reimagine ourselves, our community, and make it happen. So let's roll up our sleeves, let's work together, let's make a difference in the lives of children and in the future of our community. That leads us to our next topic. I'd like to give you a brief update on the People's Supper. Since I took office just over a year ago, I have regularly acknowledged how lucky I feel to be the mayor right now. Most would point to the economic development efforts, like the new construction led by our companies, our universities, and our hospitals, or the economic development of organizations like the Erie Downtown Development Corporation. But that's just part of the story. People are now working together in Erie like never before. We want everyone to feel part of this. That's why for months we've been doing a detailed plan to conduct the People's Supper series. That actually kicks off tonight. We have engaged national organizations called the People's Supper that has conducted over 1,200 of these suppers across the country. The goal for our People's Supper series is to strengthen Erie by healing the breach in interpersonal relationships caused by race, racial, ethnic, political, ideological, sexual, or religious differences. Thanks to an anonymous donor, from January to June of 2019, under the leadership of the People's Supper Group, we will be bringing together representatives from every part of Erie's diverse community to build relationships by breaking bread together. This series of suppers is designed to break down barriers, deepen trust, by helping us to understand one another. Tonight, we begin that process with 80 residents, now representing a diverse cross-section of our community, including African Americans, New Americans, Hispanic Americans, and white Americans. They will all bring their diverse perspectives, talents, skills, and capabilities to the dinner table. Tonight, we begin working together to make Erie a city that lives the American dream, a city where age, race, ethnicity, religion, heritage, gender, sexual preference, and even which side of State Street you live on doesn't matter anymore. Tonight, we will start a conversation that will enable us all to see the value we each bring to the community. Like never before, we will celebrate our rich, diverse cultures that make us uniquely Erie. Tonight, we will sit down and break bread together to share our experience, to gain insight and understanding into one another's diverse perspectives, and to look at how we can build opportunity, restore hope, and transform Erie. In order to foster an open, honest conversation at these suppers, they will not be open to the media, but media are invited to interview guests before or after the dinners. We will provide updates on the People's Supper and look forward to sharing a transformational result of these conversations at our community celebration in June. Finally, in our last topic for today, I'm going to be very quick on this one. I just want to remind all residents that if they are interested in signing up for a brown bag lunch with the mayor, those occur on the first Thursday of each month at 11:30 a.m. I really enjoy hearing from residents during these sessions, and I encourage everyone to sign up. Reservations are awarded on a first-come, first-served basis, but you all eventually do get to have lunch with me. So please contact my executive assistant, Nikan Astari Carpenter, at 870-1200 to get on the schedule. Again, Nikan's number is 870-1200. That wraps up today's press conference. Thanks very much, everyone, for being here and for watching, and we'll all be available for answer any questions after we're done. Thanks very much.